He told us he had heard her breathing and her giggle as he came near. The entire time I was searching, Annika had been hiding within 10 feet of me. She had heard me. She had heard the associate director. She had heard my friend and the others helping in the search. She had heard all of us calling to her, and yet she had chosen not to answer. I let her down softly onto the sidewalk, then grabbed her arm again, looked into her face, and again, not caring what others thought, I yelled, "I am so angry. I want to give you such a spanking." She started sobbing, and the little boy who found her started sobbing too. "Let's take a step back," the associate director of the daycare said, as she gently touched my arm. "There is a fine line between fear and anger. I do not spank Annika, and I did not then, but my fear, so palpable just minutes before, when I would have done literally anything to find her, had transitioned to anger, and the emotion took over. It made me rash and impulsive, unable to think clearly and wisely. For a long time after that day, fear was at the center of my relationship with Annika. It wasn't just a feeling. It turned into a way of being, a kind of physical and emotional practice. I was constantly turning my head so that I could keep her in view. My heart would race if she left my sight for more than a minute. I wanted to touch her or hold her hand at all times, just to make sure I knew where she was and knew she couldn't get away. Having her on such a short leash led to conflict and stifled her sense of curiosity about the world. Over time, I did become less afraid, however, and my relationship with her has changed. She has grown and become wiser about boundaries, and I have learned to let her explore and be curious, to venture off a bit, believing she will still come back to me. I no longer need to turn my head to see her all the time. Little by little, more and more, I rely on trust, prudence, and courage. I would not have wished for the experience of thinking I had lost her, but it did teach me something about myself. When I feel anger, the more true emotion is often fear. So now I ask, what am I afraid of? Quelling anger and recognizing fear. I bring this lesson to my academic work on how Christians view science and the relationship between religion and science. Fear can masquerade as anger, leading to conflict. So when we see conflict between religious belief and science, we should examine whether there might be underlying fear and try to understand it. Is there fear that science might contradict or diminish elements of faith? Fear that accepting certain scientific ideas will decrease the strength of faith or lead away from faith altogether? Fear about certain scientific findings and technologies that raise contentious ethical and theological questions? If Christians are responding to science based on such fear, how might we assuage it or replace the emotion with more productive habits or practices? Sociologists like me are interested in group behaviors. We are interested in how groups have an impact on individuals and how groups can bring changes to society, for good and for bad. One way we study this is by listening to people's life stories and analyzing to what extent these individual stories represent the groups that these individuals are part of. And we understand our own story best when we compare it with the stories of others. Social scientific research and data also allow us to get past the loud, combative voices that often drive public debate and allow us to gain a more nuanced and accurate picture of what people think, value, and believe. Sociology helps us understand which group practices work best for accomplishing particular aims. Sociology does not have the same tools as philosophy or theology. It cannot tell us the right way to live. But if we know how we want our communities or churches to be different, then sociology can help us change group cultures and engage in practices that help us effect these changes. My studies.